Hello everyone! There is a saying that all roads lead to Rome, but we're not going to Rome today. Instead, we will go on a Roman road to see some Roman apiaries, several graves dug into the stone, a silo from the Bronze Age, troglodyte dwellings, the old hut of a farmer in the north of Malta, part of a road for carts dug into the stone, and the Roman bath. We're in the town of Xemxija in the north of Malta, a small town that has a bay and a small beach, and beyond the bay is the town of Bugiba. Today's hike will be split in 2 episodes, so subscribe to the channel to see all of the monuments we are going to visit in this area. We're looking for the Roman road that we were telling you about earlier, and it doesn't take too long to find it, because it's well marked. The Romans came to Malta during the Punic Wars and took control of the island for a long time. Not too far from the entrance to the road, we come across a small sign which informs us that we're on a pilgrim's road, Malta being on one of the most important pilgrim routes of Christianity, the Way of St. James, with the destination Santiago de Compostela in the north of Spain. The first place we're visiting is a troglodyte dwelling that was also used as a tomb in the beginning. This is one of the many caves in the area that was used as a dwelling until the not too distant past. Originally, it must have been a prehistoric tomb in the Neolithic period, probably up to the Roman period. And what is particularly interesting is the presence of an engraving of a war galley on the left corner of the doorway. People from the ancient times lived in caves and grottos because the temperatures in them were more moderate than the ones outside. In the summer being cooler and in the colder seasons, the temperatures do not drop as much. We call them cavemen, but that's not really true, because there were very few of them living in caves. In many countries, traces of prehistoric people have been found in caves, through remains of tools, traces of fire, remains of slaughtered animals, or even human skeletons, but no concrete evidence was found for permanent habitation. We've reached the first apiaries of this trail, which date back to the Roman period. 2000 years ago, when the Romans turned these grottos, which were originally tombs, into beehives. The apiaries are very ingeniously built. On the facade of the wall, there are 3 rows of small holes, with some clay pots inside, where the bees could enter and build their honeycombs. In the middle, there are 2 doors that allow access to the 2 chambers of the apiaries, to allow for the collection of honey. Honey was the first sweet substance used by humans, being valued especially by the priests and used in various rituals. There is sufficient evidence that in ancient civilizations, honey was used, amongst other things, in the preparation of an alcoholic beverage, to which pollen and yeast was added. The oldest documents related to honey are 2 fragments written in the Sumerian language. Most apiaries were built facing south, an orientation chosen by the beekeepers to maximize the light and heat which the bees needed. Here we also see a grotto used for burial since the ancient times. Burial, also known as interment, was used for many reasons, some practical and some religious. In many cultures it was seen as a necessary step for the deceased to enter in the afterlife. We're going to the next Roman apiaries, originally used as tombs and then transformed into the beehives we see today. It's no wonder that we see so many beehives here, since even the name of the island of Malta is linked to honey. The name seems to be derived from the Greek word melite, which is said to translate as sweet as honey. This was later Latinized by the Romans and turned into melita. Here, in Malta, there is an endemic species of bees, and this may explain the close cultural place has with honey, which is one of Malta's traditional produce. In the area, the caves preserved the traces of human habitation. Some of them were inhabited until the not too distant past. Among them are the apiaries, which also show signs of having been used for burial purposes, and abscesses dug into the rock can be seen. It is possible that the sequence of use of these caves is as follows: for funeral purposes, for human habitation, for the production of honey, as a storage for hay, clover, or as a shelter for animals. These were also used as air raid shelters during the Second World War. We're passing through an olive orchard. The olive trees are part of the Oliaceae family, originally from Syria and the coastal area of Turkey. They are small in height and are commonly found in the areas bordering the Mediterranean Sea, southern Africa, southeastern Asia, and eastern Australia. Olive leaves stay green throughout the year. Here, in this area, there are also some remains of megalithic temples, but we had a hard time finding their exact location, so maybe you can find them when you come here, and leave us a comment under this video if you did. We're going to see a Punic tomb. Malta was for a time under the Phoenician rule. The Punic Wars was a series of 3 wars fought between Rome and Carthage between 264 and 146 BC, and they bore this name after the name Puni, which the Romans gave to the Carthaginians. The language spoken was Punic, a Semitic language derived from Phoenician. After the fall of Phoenicia in 332 BC, the area came under the control of Carthage, a former Phoenician colony itself. During the First Punic War, the island was conquered after a difficult fight by Marcus Atilius Regulus. After the failure of this expedition, the island fell back into the hands of the Carthaginians, only to be recaptured in 218 BCE after the Second Punic War by the Roman consul Tiberius Sempronius Longus. We found other troglodyte dwellings. These are 2 caves, or rather a cave, divided in 2, which until recently in Malta's history was still lived in. It probably dates from Punic times, or perhaps later. Caves were usually divided into sections by walls built out of rubble, creating a room for the parents, one for the children, and one for the animals. These caves were inhabited until at least the 1930s, according to the informational board at the entrance to this cave. An interesting feature is the channel cut into the rock that runs along the upper part of the cave to prevent rainwater from seeping in. But what is even more interesting is the ingenious device they have created by which the water from the end of the channel, possibly both ends of the channel, is directed into the cave through a pipe in the ground leading to a large well, which served as a water collection basin. Not far from this grotto, we come across an old farmer's hut that was faithfully rebuilt using the same original stone. This was an old rustic building that may have served as an extension to the cave. You can see the rough stones that were used and the total lack of mortar to hold them together. The roof was used for many purposes: drying clothes, storing straw, clover, onions, pumpkins, as well as drying tomatoes. A semicircular opening in front of the hut may have served as a pen for sheep and goats. And here we'll take a break in this hike. Until next week. If you want to see the rest of the hike and all of the monuments we're going to visit in this area, subscribe to the channel so you can be notified when the next video comes out. Give this video a like so we know you've enjoyed it, and share it with others. And we'll see you next week when we'll continue on our trail around Xemxija.